Hello and welcome to Only Human on Arrow FM. I'm your host for the next hour, I guess, just short of an hour. I'm Tim, and this is a show about atheism and humanism and things that are happening around the world in that space. I've got a few interesting songs coming up. I've got a New Zealand artist called Darts. They've done a song called Pray for Prey, like pray as in pray for things, for prey as in P-R-E-Y. So you're praying to get prey. You kind of suspect it's targeted at a certain New Zealand church, but who knows. And I've got a lot of interesting things to read as well from news from around New Zealand and the world, and lots of other cool things. I've actually got too much material for the hour tonight, which is kind of a good place to be into. And so, a few people ask what humanism is, and there's a little track I play. Well, there's a little track I usually play at the beginning of the show that, of course, I don't have ready, so I can't play it as easily as I normally can. Oh, unless I can copy and paste that. Copy. This is like real life living on the edge. Copy and paste. So this is Stephen Fry explaining what humanism is and why it's important.
What makes something right or wrong? Some people believe that what is right and wrong never varies from situation to situation, and that it can be expressed in constant and unchanging commandments. They often look to religious texts or authorities to discover what they think a God wants them to do. A humanist view of morality is different. Humanists do not look to any God for rules, but think carefully for themselves about what might be the best way to live. This approach means we have always to be empathetic and think about the effects of our choices on the happiness or suffering of the people, or sometimes other animals, concerned. We have to respect the rights and wishes of those involved, trying to find the kindest course of action or the option that will do the least harm. We have to consider carefully the particular situation we find ourselves in, and not just take any rule or commandment for granted. We have to weigh up the evidence we have available to us about what the probable consequences of our actions will be. This way of thinking about what we should do is explicitly based on reason, experience and empathy and respect for others, rather than on tradition or deference to authority. It might sound hard, but luckily most of us do it most of the time without really thinking about it. Morality is not something that comes from outside of human beings, gifted to us by an external force like a god. When we look at our closest relatives in the animal world, we see the same basic tendencies we recognize in ourselves: affection, cooperation, all the behavior needed to live in groups and thrive. It is clear that our social instincts form the basis of morality and that they are a natural part of humanity. Of course, that is not the end of the story. The long experience of tens of thousands of years of human beings living in communities has developed and refined our morality, and we are all the lucky inheritors of that hard work. But it does not mean that there are not people who do harm or make bad choices. But ultimately, morality comes from us, not from any god. It is to do with people, with individual goodwill and social responsibility. It is about not being completely selfish, about kindness and consideration towards others. Ideas of freedom, justice, happiness, equality, fairness, and all the other values we may live by are human inventions, and we can be proud of that as we strive to live up to them.
So that was Stephen Fry. What makes something right or wrong? That's humanism. So I'm going to play a track now by Will Powers called Adventures in Success. This is from the album Dancing for Mental Health.
soul, a unique creature. There has never been anyone just like you, and never will be. You have talents and abilities no one else has. In some ways, you're superior to any other living person. The power to do anything you can imagine is within you when you discovered your real self by practicing a few simple laws of success.
First law of success.
Take inventory of your assets. Don't be modest or critical. Be open and objective. Get a pencil and paper. Write down every good thing about yourself you can think of.
Make it happen. 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 Single house success.
Write a description of the person you'd like to be. Describe your personal dress, your home, your automobile, your desired occupation, and income. Be honest. Now, go even deeper. Describe the inner person you'd like to be. Let your mind run wild. Assume you can become anything you desire. The fact is, you will become the person you honestly describe. You can't avoid it.
Make it happen. 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 Make it happen.
Concentrate on a mental image of the person you'd like to be. Paint a picture in your imagination of who you want to become. Constantly hold this visual in your mind's eye. See yourself performing and responding like a champion. Feel the confidence and courage that radiate from this type of person.
It's you. Only you. It's you. Only you. It's you. Only you.
These three laws are powerful and effective in changing lives. They'll work for you without fail if you're persistent in applying them.
Make it happen. 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 It's you. Make it happen. Make it happen. Only you. Make it happen. Make it happen. It's you. Make it happen. Make it happen. Only you.
Lovely track there by Will Powers, Adventures in Success. It's you, only you, from his album Dancing for Mental Health. So much material to go through. I think I might start with, I discovered today the 10 commitments of humanism. So this is from American Humanist Center for Education.org/10-commitments. And it's quite a nice approach to the world, really, so I thought I'd read it out. So the 10 commitments. This life, in this world, is our central defining focus. Each one of us is responsible for the collective welfare of humanity, other beings, and the resources of our shared planet. We value freedom, reason, and tolerance, and it is our responsibility to develop this heritage for ensuing generations. The 10 Commitments represents our shared humanistic values and principles that promote a democratic world in which every individual's worth and dignity is respected, nurtured, and supported, and where human freedom and ethical responsibility are natural aspirations for everyone. So the 10 commitments are... Actually, I might go round the commitments wheel and then we can read some of them that I feel like reading. So the 10 commitments are empathy, critical thinking, ethical development, peace and social justice, service and participation, altruism, humility, environmentalism, global awareness, and responsibility. So, Actually, I have another link about one of them in particular. So, there we are. How does empathy lead to altruism? This is Radio on the Edge. I'm making it up as I go along. This is an article from thehumanist.com, How Does Empathy Lead to Altruism? So it kind of links it nicely with the 10 Commitments. This was published 9th of June 2021, so reasonably recent. And it's by Kirsten Wintermute. Empathy is a core aspect of what makes us human. Understanding others' thoughts, feelings, and circumstances increases our patience, consideration, and compassion for others. It allows us to connect and engage with others outside of ourselves. While sympathy helps us feel pity for someone's pain, empathy enables us to comprehend that pain and motivates us to help to relieve it, regardless of any benefits or personal gain, leading to more altruistic behaviours. Altruism is the selfless concern for the well-being of others and recognises that the collective welfare of society depends on the welfare of each individual. We should always seek to alleviate the suffering and hardships of others with compassionate action. Empathy is both a trait and a skill. There are specific genes associated with empathy, and most of us have the brain capacity to be empathetic. When we witness someone else's emotion, our bodies automatically respond similarly, as is the case with empathetic crying. For some, just seeing another person cry may elicit tears, but it isn't just the visual image of another's tears that can bring about our own. Neuroscientists have found that seeing another person's pain can trigger neural networks, causing a sort of mirror system. Kirsten Rogers, in her article, Empathy is both a trait and a skill, here's how to strengthen it, says, mirror neurons mimic the actions and behaviours of others and are linked to more intuitive emotional empathy. The insula regards the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, which control the fight or flight response and relax the body respectively. The limbic system regulates bodily functions in response to emotional stimuli and reinforces behaviour through memories. Now, not all of us can be empathetic easily. Studies on individuals with autism spectrum disorder, ASD, have shown several reasons why they struggle with empathy, from a dysfunctional mirror neuron system, noted above, to alexithymia, a condition making it challenging to comprehend and recognise their own emotions. Despite the neurological impairments of individuals with ASD or others who find being empathetic challenging, almost anyone can learn how to develop empathy. Articles and guides indicate ways to increase understanding of others and why it's critical for personal, community, societal and global success. Denmark, one of the happiest countries on earth, has discovered how important empathy is to its population's overall state of being. Since 1993, Denmark requires weekly empathy classes, Klassen Tid, as a fundamental part of the school curriculum. Klassen Tid engages children from ages 6 to 16 to discuss their problems and work together as a class to find solutions. The emphasis on respecting others without judgment, fostering stronger relationships, and encouraging individual success through personal challenges instead of competing with others. Now, the benefits for teaching empathy, as Denmark found, aren't limited to building positive friendships, collaborative teamwork, or self-motivation towards excelling. Teaching empathy also promotes altruistic behaviour as it increases compassion for others and their experiences. It raises respect for differences, thus decreasing bullying amongst children. By caring for others and encouraging altruism, we reinforce healthy connections and contribute to the betterment of our community, society, and the world. Research indicates that an awareness of how it feels to be in another person's shoes does change perceptions and behaviour towards others. Being empathetic, can promote curiosity, openness, and exploration in seeking other points of views outside your own. Engaging in conversation with a stranger, actively listening to a friend, or following the Native American proverb to walk a mile in another man's moccasins will alter your lens. It will adjust how you see the world and those standing beside you, acting as an incentive to challenge biases, resolve conflict, and inspire social transformation. So whenever you get a chance, practice being empathetic. Whether it be in the grocery checkout line or a family event, take a moment to better connect by answering a simple open-ended question like, how was your day? Focus on speakers without distraction or interruption so you can fully listen and comprehend what they share. You never know what you might learn, how you could change, or how you might improve someone else's day. So that was How Does Empathy Lead to Altruism from thehumanist.com, and is written by Kirsten Wintermute, who's the Education Director for the Centre for Education at the American Humanist Association. So I'm Tim. This show, as I mentioned before, is Masterton's Humanism/Atheists show. It's loosely affiliated with the Humanist Society of New Zealand. I'm on the board, but this show is kind of my own, but I read out bits from their newsletter because I think they're awesome and they have great events in town. And they've just got a new newsletter come out that, of course, I don't have open in front of me. So there was something in there I wanted to read out, but I'll need to get it while the next song is playing. So the next song... So I'm going to thank Sarah for sending me the song. This is Pray for Prey by Darts. I believe they're a Wellington band. I'm going to try and interview them some stage to find out a little bit of history of the songs. I think that'll be really cool to have them on the show. In fairness, recorded, but they'll still be on the show and that'll be great. So this is Pray for Prey by Darts.
Wears his sunglasses indoors. He's got a few tax deductibles to declare from his business that profits off your faith and your fears. Well, God spoke to Brian and he's shown him the way. Just tithe to the church, we now have Apple Pay. Cause when you're tax exempt, you don't have to pay a price. Not while my accountant is the shard of Jesus Christ. Bring you're vulnerable, you're weak and you're straight. Well, I pray for rain. I pray for rain. Well, I pray for rain. I pray for rain. Oh, bring me, you're vulnerable, you're weak and you're straight. Well, I pray for rain. I pray for rain. Well, I pray for rain. I pray for rain. Get on your knees. Well, the good minister must have gone and got his PhD. The good minister must have majored in seismology. I mean, how else could you possibly decree that earthquakes are caused by homosexuality? Well, Brian's gonna fix the high rate of male suicide with 5 easy payments of God by your side. He's gonna fix those men in quick succession. None the fuck up their IQ and your depression. Bring me your vulnerable, your weak and your straight. Well, I pray for rain. I pray for rain. Well, I pray for rain. I pray for rain. Oh, bring me your vulnerable, your weak and your straight. Well, I pray for rain.
Lovely track there by Darts, Wellington Band, New Zealand band, Pray for Prey. Quite like it, really. The video on YouTube is quite good as well, because you get to see the video-y bits, which kind of bring the whole thing to life, I guess. Now, I pulled up the Humanist New Zealand newsletter, which is lovely as usual. They had a meeting on Monday in Wellington about the hate speech legislation, which sadly I couldn't make. So hopefully there were some good discussions there about the aspects in the hate speech legislation. I think the general feeling was it's good, or at least general feeling before that meeting was the legislation's good, but could be actually made better as well. So I'm going to read a little bit from the newsletter, sort of the editorial, the bit that Galen writes at the beginning. Before I do that, though, I kind of got to wonder what all the fuss is about saying Aotearoa New Zealand or just Aotearoa. It's bizarre. I don't understand it. They're both great words. I kind of prefer Aotearoa. Anyway, here we go. Kia ora. Before the advent of modern global communication with email and Facebook and various other social media platforms, the internet, which allows us to search out information, we were isolated and insular in what we knew about the situations of other people and communities beyond our shores. But today, we're frighteningly aware of so much hardship and difficulties for others in various places around the world. Today is day 455 of Mubarak Bala's unjust imprisonment. I'm just going to go out here. This email was sent on 27th of July, so just over a week ago, so it's well past day 455 now. Okay, back to the newsletter. His court case for 14th of July 2021 was postponed to 22nd July 2021, but again this date has gone with no court hearing and no further news except the Facebook vigil, which continues with a daily post recording the cruel passing of time. Moderate Muslims make no comment on this barbaric situation. There are water shortages in the Kyrgyzstan province, South Iran, as the Iranian regime has closed water sources, forcing Iranian Arabs and Sunni minorities to leave their lands and cities. The Islamic regime are killing people in this area, protesting the water shortage. The withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan has news reports expressing concerns for the women and children of Afghanistan as the Taliban make advances into the territory vacated by American troops. The reports cite widespread fear that the Taliban will reintroduce the notorious system of gender segregation that they applied in the late 1990s, a system which denied girls and women access to education and the right to work and vote. We've heard of the concerns of humanists in Pakistan as the Taliban advance. Like-minded humanists, secular and democratic folks are deeply worried about the Taliban advances in the rural areas of northern Afghanistan after the US forces exit. At least the presence of the US ground troops in Afghanistan was a guarantee of peace here. Pakistan had suffered many civilian and soldiers' deaths perpetuated by suicide attacks by Islamic pro-Taliban terrorist outfits in the Musharraf era. Here in Pakistan, pro-Taliban people are very excited over the Taliban advances and occupation in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the government-sponsored indoctrination in our curriculum and electronic media is a lethal blow to the secular democratic forces in Pakistan. I hope that the very Islamic influences of pro-Taliban forces do not take over our dysfunctional democracy. I beseech you to keep an eye on the latest developments in Afghanistan, as it would directly affect us here in many ways. The spectre of terrorism is looming large and just unleashed not far away from us. We have a 2,200 kilometre porous border with Afghanistan, and there are millions of government-sponsored, indoctrinated supporters of Islamic terrorist outfits. People who have been intoxicated with the induced euphoria of Islamism. They are unable to see any beauty in this life and are always enchanted with the life hereafter. We try our best to raise awareness that this life is the only life we've got. It is up to us to make it productive, peaceful and beautiful for all human beings. It is so easy to label someone as non-believer, apostate and blasphemer. Opportunities are designed to the humanist, secular and non-religious citizens on all fronts. There is a perpetual atmosphere of fear and intimidation for us. Our present oligarchy and puppet regime is totally blindfolded towards the harsh realities of life amidst pandemic. Those who believe in secular, democratic and human values, like us, are already a cornered, persecuted minority. Please, fellow humanist observers, watch the ground situation in Afghanistan and its impact on Pakistan. It is quite scary and frightening to think again about Taliban attacks on civilians inside Pakistan. So that was the introduction to the Humanist New Zealand, Humanist NZ newsletter. So go to their website, humanist.nz, and sign up and get the newsletter and become a member because they're amazing. I'm debating reading something about the American humanists calling for a full investigation and possible impeachment of Brett Kavanaugh, but I think it's a little bit long for me to read before breaking to another song. So what I might do is Secular Education New Zealand, whose goal is to get religion out of schools. And while religion in schools is opt-in now rather than opt-out, which is much better, there are still a lot of schools that if you opt your kid or you don't opt them into religious education, they're not treated the best when they're not having the religious education. So all the kids getting CRE are treated well, and the other kids are not treated so well, like put in younger classrooms or not done anything interesting. So Secular Education New Zealand has a website, teachnotpreach.org.nz, and it's got to meet the people, and it's got little descriptions of some of the people and why they're interested in it. So I thought I'd read out the one by Tanya Jacob, because I thought it was quite good. And then I'm going to play a song. So this is Tanya Jacob, why she's interested in Secular Education New Zealand. Despite having opted our 7-year-old son out of his school's religious instruction class, he was either sent to the new entrance class or kept at the back of the classroom where he was still exposed to the class. When he was eventually excluded from the class, the teasing and bullying started, with our son being harassed 2 or 3 times every week. Why don't you believe in God? You're going to hell, and that sort of thing. When our younger daughter began experiencing the same treatment and the school did not respond to our concerns, my husband and I asked our kids how they would feel about changing schools. They are ecstatic to be removed from that hostile environment, but I was shocked at the extremes we had to go to under a supposedly secular, non-religious school system. I started looking around and realised this was happening all over New Zealand. Children everywhere were being ostracised and parents were struggling to deal diplomatically with their schools. In 2012, I became an early member of the Secular Education Network because I realised how essential it is that we don't allow the church to take up our children's valuable class time and school resources to preach their own agenda. So that was Tanya Jacob from the Secular Education Network, New Zealand. So I'm going to play a track now. Ooh, I've got so many options. Let's play Snapped Ankles. This is a track called The Evidence from the album Forest of Your Problems. Lovely track there called The Evidence by Snapped Ankles from their album Forest of Your Problems. So, the American Humanists Association put out a press release a couple of days ago. Humanists call for a full investigation and possible impeachment of Brett Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh? I don't know. Someone can correct me with that spelling of his last name. And I haven't heard much about this recently, but I guess, it's only the 4th of August now, and this press release was only 2 days ago, so that's not surprising. Anyway, I'm going to read out the press release, because I think it is quite interesting what's happening over there a little bit. So, 2nd of August 2021, the American Humanist Association, AHA, joins the Freedom from Religion Foundation in calling for a full investigation into Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. If a new investigation finds that Kavanaugh had lied to Congress, the AHA will call for his immediate impeachment, since lying to Congress is an impeachable offence. The allegations concern Kavanaugh's statements to Congress during his confirmation hearings. There are also serious allegations the FBI failed to fully investigate sexual assault allegations and subsequent corroborating tips during the confirmation process in 2018. It is unacceptable the FBI and Trump administration failed to thoroughly investigate Kavanaugh and the many claims made against him, noted Sunil Panakath, president of the AHA. To allow him to continue to serve on the nation's highest court without serious allegations of him having lied to Congress being properly investigated is a mistake that must be immediately corrected. So in 2018, when Kavanaugh was nominated for the court, he was credibly accused of sexual misconduct from multiple women whose stories were corroborated and considered just cause for investigation. Named accusers risked their personal and professional well-being by speaking out against Kavanaugh, even receiving death threats from Kavanaugh's supporters. Although there were multiple accusations, the FBI's investigation concluded after speaking with only 10 people, most likely missing key witnesses, according to 7 members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. It has also been alleged that although the FBI received over 4,500 tips regarding Kavanaugh, adequate follow-up action was not taken by investigators. Kavanaugh was the second of 3 jurists that former President Donald Trump appointed to the Supreme Court, resulting in a 6-3 conservative majority. Among many cases that were impacted by Trump's appointees to court, the outcome of the AHA's Bladensburg case, American Legion versus American Humanist Association, was arguably a direct result of Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court only a month before the case was accepted for consideration. In the case, the court decided to allow a 40-foot-tall Latin cross to stand at the entrance to the town of Bladensburg, Maryland, even though it blatantly violates the Establishment Clause of the Constitution, as laid out eloquently in Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's dissenting opinion in the case. Despite Kavanaugh's appointment and confirmation being clouded with legitimate objections, the justice now sits in a position with the potential to drive decades of precedent. Panikath concluded, the AHA stands in solidarity with victims of sexual misconduct and believe their claims should be taken seriously. A proper investigation, regardless of the outcome, is necessary to ensure the integrity of the Supreme Court and the nomination process. Then there's a bit at the bottom. The American Humanist Association works to protect the rights of humanists, atheists, and other non-theistic Americans. The AHA advances the ethical and life-affirming worldview of humanism, which, without beliefs in gods or other supernatural forces, encourages individuals to live informed and meaningful lives that aspire to the greater good of humanity. So I'm going to play another track now called Atheists Don't Have No Songs. It's by Steve Martin and the Steep Canyon Rangers. Actually, I'm going to play 2 songs back to back, because that could be... Oh, we'll see. I've got another track called Atheists Have Songs Too. Which one should I play first? This decision's hard. Here's Steve Martin. I like Steve Martin. Atheists Don't Have No Songs.
You know, religious people have such beautiful music and art, and atheists really have nothing. Until now. Little tune called Atheists Don't Have No Songs.
Christians have their hymns and pages.
Hymns and pages.
Habanagilus for the Jews.
For the Jews.
Baptists have the Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages.
Atheists just sing the blues. Romantics play Claire de Lune.
Claire de Lune.
Born again sing He is risen. But no one ever wrote a tune.
Wrote a tune.
For godless existentialism. For atheists,
there's no good news.
They'll never sing a song of faith. In their songs,
they have a rule.
The He is always lowercase. The He is always lowercase. Some folks sing a Bach cantata.
Bach cantata.
Lutherans get Christmas trees. Atheist songs add up to nada.
Up to nada.
But they do have Sundays free. Have Sundays free. Pentecostals sing to heaven.
Sing to heaven.
Coptics had the Book of Scrolls. Numerologists count to seven.
Count to seven.
Atheists have rock and roll. For atheists,
there's no good news.
They'll never sing a song of faith. In their songs,
they have a rule.
The He is always lowercase. The He is always lowercase. Atheists
don't have no song.
Christians have their hymns and pages.
Hymns and pages.
Habanagilus for the Jews.
For the Jews.
Baptists have the Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages.
Atheists just sing the blues. Catholics
dress up for Mass
and listen to Gregorian chants. Atheists
just take a pass.
Watch football in their underpants. Watch football in their underpants. Atheists
don't have no song.
Don't have no song.
Lovely track there by Steve Martin. Atheists don't have no songs. So I'm going to play a track now by Ricarda Parasol from the album Against the Sun called Atheists Have Songs Too.
Since my soul cannot be saved, guess I'll go into my grave and wake up in a world of flame, and wake up in a world of flame. Fire and brimstone, thistle and thorn. I never believed since the day I was born. Beside me under any old tree, and under any old tree ask me any old thing. So flesh and flesh and bone, that is all I'll ever know. Fire and brimstone, thistle and thorn. I never believed since the day I was born.
Lovely track there by Ricarda Parasol. Atheists Have Songs Too, which of course was preceded by Atheists Don't Have No Songs by Steve Martin. Two lovely little tracks there. So I'm starting to feel a bit tired, so I'm going to read one more article that I quite like and then play one more song, and that will be the show for this Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month, where you can usually find Only Human on Arrow FM, and I'm Tim. So this article, it's not a track, it's an article. It's from thehumanist.com, and it's Humanist Edge, How Humanists Make Decisions, by Emily Newman, published in 2nd of June 2021. So how humanists make decisions. Without a sacred text, God, or potential afterlife, humanists must rely on ourselves to make sense of the universe and figure out how to live every day. We do so with critical thinking, by analysing facts to form judgments, and with ethical development through evaluating our personal choices. Both help us more fully comprehend life and how we can improve it for ourselves and others. As the Humanist Manifesto 3 proclaims, knowledge of the world is derived by observation, experimentation, and rational analysis. Humanists find that science is the best method for determining this knowledge, as well as for solving problems and developing beneficial technologies. We also recognise the value of new departures in thought, the arts, and inner experience, each subject to analysis by critical intelligence. So thinking critically allows us to process the information we receive and reason our way to good judgments and effective solutions, instead of making assumptions, rationalising, or misrepresenting opinions and facts. It is an important skill that requires continued attention and practice. In scientific terms, the process includes hypothesizing, experimenting, and concluding. Exercising our minds in this way enables us to challenge biases in ourselves and others, paving the way for a more fair, open-minded, and autonomous perspective that fosters a multicultural worldview. One essential aspect of critical thinking is asking questions, like who, what, when, where, why, and how, to gather more insight and evaluate different ideas. This doesn't mean that critical thinkers need to critique or ruthlessly question everything. We can remain respectful with our inquiries by being mindful of who we're addressing, what we're saying, where the dialogue is occurring, for example, public versus private, online versus in person, and how our questions are delivered, i.e. tone, intent versus impact. We should also consider when it's better to research answers on our own instead of confronting people with questions. Listening is just as, if not more, important as speaking. Children love asking why several times in a row, both to absorb information and to test their boundaries. Many adults find it stressful to have the right answer, but it's most important that we help them find and analyse information for themselves. Not only does it relieve pressure on us to know everything, but it empowers them to recognise their ability to learn with or without us, and become resourceful individuals. It also inspires them to do the same for others. As we mature, we learn that there isn't always a clear right or wrong answer when we contemplate various factors and consequences. For example, the Golden Rule advises people to treat others as they want to be treated, but that doesn't consider a vast array of different experiences, wants, and needs. Ethical development is a never-ending process that requires constant reflection and evaluation of our personal choices and the consequences they have on others and our environment. Fairness, cooperation, and sharing are among the first moral issues we encounter in our childhood and are often embraced intuitively. As we develop, we gather knowledge and practices that help us handle new moral dilemmas that may cause us to adapt our thinking and decisions. Each day brings new information to absorb, ideas to ponder, decisions to make, and actions to take. While we're responsible for ourselves, we must also understand how much impact we have on others and the world around us. So each day we must make a conscious effort to do good. So that was Emily Newman from thehumanist.com, an article, Humanist Edge, How Humanists Make Decisions. She is Senior Education Coordinator at the American Humanist Association Centre for Education. She has a BS in Psychology and Creative Writing, as well as an MA in Professional Writing from Carnegie Mellon University. So I'm going to play another track now, The Christians and the Pagans. This is by Dar Williams from the album Mortal City.
called her uncle, said we're up here for the holiday. Jane and I were having solstice, now we need a place to stay. And her Christ-loving uncle watched his wife hang Mary on a tree. He watched his son hang candy canes all made with red dye number 3. He told his niece it's Christmas Eve, I know our life is not your style. She said Christmas is like solstice and we miss you and it's been a while. So the Christians and the pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground the best that they were able. Just before the meal was served, hands were held and prayers were said, sending hope for peace on earth to all their gods and goddesses. Was great, the tree plugged in, the meal had gone without a hitch, till Timmy turned to Amber and said, is it true that you're a witch? His mom jumped up and said, the pies are burning, and she hit the kitchen, and it was Jane who spoke. She said, it's true, your cousin's not a Christian, but we love trees, we love the snow, the friends we have, the world we share, and you find magic from your God, and we find magic everywhere. So the Christians and the pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground the best that they were able. And where does magic come from? I think magic's in the learning, 'cause now when Christians sit with pagans, only pumpkin pies are burning. Tried to do the dishes, her aunt said, really no, don't bother. Amber's uncle saw how Amber looked like Tim and like her father. He thought about his brother, how they hadn't spoken in a year. He thought he'd call him up and say it's Christmas and your daughter's here. He thought of father, sons and brothers, saw his own son tug his sleeve, saying, can I be a pagan? Dad said, we'll discuss it when they leave. So the Christians and the pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground the best that they were able. Lighting trees in darkness, learning new ways from the old, and making sense of history and drawing warmth out of the cold.
A little bit of a fun track there by Dar Williams, The Christians and the Pagans, from the album Mortal City. This show has been Only Human. I'm Tim. I do it on the first Wednesday of each month. It used to be Sundays, but we switched because Sundays were getting a little bit hard for me. So it's Wednesdays now. First Wednesday of the month at 9 o'clock. You can tune in for almost an hour, but I'm feeling a little bit tired now, so I'm going to stop early. Hope you have a great night out there, and hope you picked up something from this show that was interesting or useful or thought-provoking or anything like that, really. So have a great night, and I'll return you to Arrow FM's beautiful playlist.